All right, coming up next, our next session is Manga Goes to School. We have Ashley Hawkins, Emily Ratica. I'm sorry if I did say it correctly. Thank you. Okay. Sara Smith and Julie Stivers. Take it away. I'm all ears, guys. Wait a minute. Let me make sure you guys are unmuted. Hold on. There we go. Now let's try it. Can you unmute yourself? That's weird. Okay, try now.
I can.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Take it away, y'all.
Okay. So we are the Manga in the School Day team. I am Ashley Hawkins. You can see all of my contact information down below. I am an elementary school librarian, but I have a lot of experience in high school. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that because we have a lot to go over, and you can find all my information down below.
Actually, I don't think we're in the present mode yet.
Oh, why is it not?
I don't know.
Oh. We try again. It's been happening to other people, so.
Yeah, it has.
Let me try again. Okay, it's not.
Emily and Sara and I do want to introduce ourselves while Ashley's finding the present.
Sure. I'll go next. Oh,
There we go.
There we go. There we go.
Kind of. Nope. So when you hit present, it's just not going into the full screen mode.
Yeah, just leave
That
it.
is so strange.
Anyway, so I'm Sara Smith. I'm a district librarian in Central California, and I'm in a public library right now, so I'm kind of quiet.
I'm Emily Ratica. I am a high school English teacher. I was a school librarian for many years. Now I'm back in the classroom teaching English, ninth grade English in Southern California.
Emily, if possible, can you speak up a little bit?
Yes, I can.
That's so much better. Thank you.
Okay, I will talk much louder.
And I'm Julie Stivers. I'm a high school librarian, also recently a middle school librarian.
All right. And let's just jump right in there. So how an effective manga program hits the ASL standards. First off, inquire. So we all kind of know this. Manga readers are naturally drawn to inquiry about their favorite manga, first off. We know that they're naturally inquisitive about the subject matter, as well as perhaps the lives of the mangaka themselves, mangaka being the creators of manga. Many manga are also rooted in history and culture, and not just Japanese history and culture. A mangaka may have an interest in many different historical or cultural roots, and mangaka do not necessarily have to be Japanese. Aside from cultural connections, many manga incorporate learning about a particular topic, skill, or trade. So there are manga about music, art, all sorts of so many different things that you can learn about. There are science manga, there are history manga. There's so much that you can actually learn from manga and you can enrich with manga. It is actually a very plentiful place to jump into inquiry and research. There are titles that encompass authentic experiences. There are memoirs, biographies, and manga and anime programming is a community building opportunity for all ages and has particular benefits for neurodivergent, LGBTQ+, and BIPOC learners to feel seen and welcomed in the school community. This is a very, very important standard for us and for school librarians in particular, as it associates with manga. And we'll be talking more about this later. Collaborate. In a club, while planning to put on a library, manga, and anime convention, working together to learn how to develop a cosplay, or simply collaborating within the classroom as part of an academic lesson, manga programs encourage learners and staff members to work together. So for example, in my school, we actually did an anime, manga, and comic book convention, and it was planned by myself and the speech teacher. And every single kid in our school created something that was a part of our Comic-Con. And we made sure that we had scaffolds available for all students to participate, no matter what their ability level. Curate. So manga is a multimodal text format, meaning that it is both visual and it is text-based. And that means that it actually has a lot of room for learners to gather information on a wide variety of topics. As many genres as there are of books, there are genres of manga. Explore. Manga programs lend themselves to a wide variety of STEAM activities. Learners might explore creating their own manga, but they can take their interest in the format to do coding, such as doing video games or things like that. There are actually a lot of video games that are based on manga and anime properties. 3D printing, amigurumi, which are crochet stuffed animals or plushies. You can see an example in the corner. Origami, calligraphy, and so many activities that stretch learners beyond basic academics and into actual hands-on learning. And finally, engage. The wider manga and anime community is primarily in the digital space. So we can teach our manga enthusiasts digital citizenship through a lens of personal connection. Conversations about safely engaging online when so much fan activity occurs there are especially vital for these young people. And actually, I have shown you a text that I think is a really great example of how you can use manga to teach digital citizenship, because it is a manga actually about what happens when your digital life interferes with your real life. Then I have some recommendations, but I'm not going to talk about them because we're tight on time. But you can find all of my reviews for them on Booklist, either in the past or forthcoming. And there they are. We'll give you this slide at the end.
Okay, on to me. Hi, I'm Emily. So I just want to share real quickly some ordering and maintaining best practices. I mean, we're school librarians. We know how to order books. We know how to like maintain some of our books, and everybody has their own way of doing it. But just some things to keep in mind specifically for manga. It's not very exciting. I will talk louder. Am I loud enough? Can you hear me now? Yes, hopefully. I'm just going to talk really loudly. I'm sorry, I'm on my husband's computer. So can you skip to the next slide? Ashley, skip. Next slide. Thank you. So some things to keep in mind with manga. Manga series can be very long. You get some of these titles like Naruto, like Dragon Ball, like One Piece or Attack on Titan, and they are huge orders. And you cannot necessarily make space for 30 or 40 or 50 books on your shelf. It's just not really possible for most of us. So I always recommend that teacher librarians buy multiple copies of the first few volumes first. Do not buy 50 of Dragon Ball. It's just not practical to have on your shelf. And most of your readers will not get through those 50 Dragon Ball books. So you're going to get a lot more use out of the first few copies of those volumes than you would if you bought, 1 through 50. So be really thoughtful about what you buy, because you're going to get this, it's called the hammock effect, where a lot of people are interested right at the beginning, and then in the middle it kind of tapers off and like fewer people, and then right at the end more students or more readers will get interested again. So think about your readers, listen to what your readers want, and start with the first few in a series. Utilize that digital content, because a lot of these series will go on and on and on and on and on and on, and you just can't keep up with them. So try and use digital content when you can, and reach out to your local library, your public library. They might be able to support you when it comes to those bigger titles. Skip. Thank you. So just remember, start small. Do not try and get everything all at once. There's just no way. Single volumes and short series are your friends, and we've got recommendations for those. Sometimes you can get a series that's 1 in 10 and done, and those series are going to be really popular because students like to have an end. Like the story starts and it has an end that they can reach. Also remember that classics can be just as popular as some of the newer titles. So things that like Dragon Ball that are a little bit older, even though there are, Dragon Ball Super, which is new, but Dragon Ball itself is pretty old, but students love it. So sometimes some of those more classic titles can be really popular. Next, thank you. Also remember, with availability, most manga is not made here in the United States. It's being shipped in. So availability will change based on lots of different things. So popular titles that may be more available now, they could change and vary, and heaven forbid there's a pandemic that makes everything impossible to get. But if you can buy some of those, a couple of copies of those more popular titles, if you have that room in your budget, do so. Pay attention to those bundles. Publishers like to bundle things for you, but availability might change that. So pay attention to what you're buying, but also pay attention to the differences. There are 3-in-1s, there are reprints, there are spin-offs, there are special editions, there are new covers. So just pay attention to what you're buying. Last one, sorry, going so fast. Most manga comes in paperback, single volume editions. That's what you're mostly going to see. They're the most available, they're the cheapest, but as all librarians know, the paperbacks fall apart real fast in student backpacks. So pay attention to that, because you're going to have to rebuy those, because they'll fall apart real fast. Some publishers will offer rebinding. It is more expensive, but it does last longer. Beware, this picture on the bottom here is a picture of Sara's shelf. These are all Black Butler, I think, if Sara, they're all Black Butler, which is great manga for high school. They're all the same, but the publisher shaved the books when they bound them in plastic for Sara. So for manga, that's a big deal, because they're shaving off the edges and they're potentially shaving off content. So sometimes some of our providers will do that. If that's a problem for you, pay attention, and just beware. Plastic covers, I have gone so far as to go to Walmart and buy plastic vinyl and recover my manga in plastic vinyl that you do for your cupboards, just because that will make things last longer. So whatever you can do to help make things last, great. If you can't, upcycle. I love to take those books that have been destroyed, cut the pages into bookmarks, and students color those, and they have them as their own personal bookmarks. So whatever you can do to upcycle those. Capco covers, I've also used those. They're more expensive, a little bit more time consuming, but whatever you can do to make those last longer. Okay, and then that's my title recommendation slide. And these are my own kids. My 4 kids were all huge manga readers. All of these recommendations come from my own kids, except for the girl from the other side, which is my recommendation. But all my kids love manga, huge manga readers. Buy manga for your students. And I'm done. Go, Sara.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about physical organization. So manga is, go ahead, Ashley, next one. Manga is a little bit shorter, so if you can arrange it and shelve it separately, and then arrange it by the manga title instead of the name of the or sorry, the name of the author. That's how I did it in my library because the kids were coming in and asking by the series title instead of by the author name because they didn't know the author names. And then sometimes the vendors will be able to print the shelf labels and accommodate that for a fee. So you can see I have my Full Metal Alchemist. We did our own shelf labels, but then I found out that some people were able to do that for me. But next slide there, this is our shelving scheme. So for those that can do your own cataloging, we changed all of them and moved them out of 741.5 because that's dumb, and put them in. We made a separate call number, so they're under MAN, and then we put the first three letters of the title. So go ahead to the next one. And then because they were on their own shelf, we were able to get like another shelf worth of room. So those are two pictures. The left side is my comic books and the right side is the manga. So we have 5 shelves in comic books and 6 shelves in manga. So that actually gave us a little bit more space to get more room for manga. Go ahead in the next one. So we also employed Kelsey Bogan's dynamic shelving. So she's got 2 different blog posts about that. If you search that up, that she's very thorough. So someone got, well, someone, probably the artist or the mangaka, got paid lots of money to make a really pretty cover, and those are the things that attract the kids to it. So we use a lot of dynamic shelving in the manga area to make sure the kids know that what series we have. And we also have those shelf end pieces from Demco. So we show off our manga as much as possible to make sure that the kids know what we have. Next one. So for readers advisory, go ahead. There's a lot of readers advisory strategies that you can use with manga, even if you're not a manga expert. So the same strategies you have, like asking questions, asking like what kinds of books that they've read that they like, and then doing some research to find things that are similar. So you're finding read-alikes, asking students about their hobbies and interests, and then researching a manga that's similar to that, or connecting with other formats. So if they like something that's, if they're into romance, you find a romance manga. If they're into sports books, there are sports manga. So there's a manga for pretty much everything. You just have to do a little bit of research if you're not necessarily familiar with the format, but there is a manga out there for everybody and for every interest. Also, for the readers that are already into manga and anime, let them gush about it because they will want to talk about it and they're going to be excited that an adult is interested in it. And then there's also some really good resources out there if you're getting into the research portion of it. So School Library Journal has a blog, Good Comics for Kids. They do a lot of posts about manga, and they put together columns that talk about manga all the time. And then of course Ashley's site and my site, we do a lot of tagging and lists and stuff to try and help people find manga for people that's particularly relates to hobbies and interests, and trying to find students, connect books to students and readers. Next one. So something else that will help out with your ordering and getting books into your library is the anime bump. So if the show is coming out, if there's about to be an anime or a new season of the anime, they're going to want to read it. So they're going to want to connect with it. And most of the time, like if the anime stops at a sudden place, they're going to want to keep going and read the book because they're unsatisfied and they're like, they don't want to wait for the next season of the anime. So the books are going to be more popular when the anime is currently streaming. So if you go onto Netflix or Crunchyroll or any of those places, you can see what's popular and it'll be listed like hot new or new to Netflix. Like you'll see the anime on there, so you can know what's coming or what's out. And then there's also starting to be a lot more representation of manga amongst the award winners. So the Eisers, the Harveys, and then new this year is the American Manga Awards. So there's a whole new category or a whole new award representation happening at Anime NYC just for manga. So they're starting to have, you know, more representation and more recognition for what's good out there in manga. Go ahead. There's also some cool reading lists out there. So he also has a great graphic novels list that has a lot of manga on it. And TLA Mavericks graphic novel reading list has a ton of manga on it. And then GNCRT doesn't have a ton of manga at the moment, but here's hoping that they'll have some more manga on their best list for adults and children. And then researching webtoons. There's a bunch of webtoon platforms that, again, kind of like Netflix, will have what's hot. And then those are coming to print now. So there's within Yen Press, they have a whole imprint that's basically printing webtoons or web comics. So knowing what's hot and popular will help you get ahead and be able to order some of those, get them into your library. So yeah, just knowing some of that research. And then I think my recommendation slide, and then I'm done. Woohoo!
Okay, so this next section, or part of this next section, is actually done by Mouna, but I am going to present it. But please understand that the content was created by Mouna and is pretty intrinsic to her identity. I do represent a couple of the communities in this, but she is speaking from her perspective of these identities. So these are Mouna's words about these topics. So first off, manga blurs in art communities, making mirrors through race bending in fan works. Blurred is a portmanteau, meaning black nerd. And there's also race bending, reimagining existing characters with features of a different race, ethnicity, primarily through fan art. And as you can see, Mouna has actually provided some of her incredible artwork right here, showing some of this practice. And she also provides mukokuseki, which is to be stateless or without nation. This refers for the tendency for Japanese characters in manga or anime art to not actually have racially defining features. This is why Westerners, just to give a little bit more explanation, Westerners will see anime and manga characters as white, and Asian identities will see manga and anime characters as Asian. And that is because they have kind of this flexibility in terms of identity. And that actually is a great way for people to then kind of claim and put in their own identities into these characters. There's also the hashtag Blacktober, which is a place where you can see people doing their own interpretations. There are also the works of Shireen Morishita. Catch Me, Fight Me, Love Me is available on Webtoon. And Love, Love, Fighting is available on Tapas. Those are two platforms where you can read online. And this actually is a manga with a Black female main character. Manga fandom in queer communities. BL and Yuri can actually serve as an escapism or representation for queer readers. Androgynous characters have long existed in manga and anime. Cross-dressing and gender nonconformity are not uncommon themes. Bishona is a word that means beautiful boy, and there are characters whose beauty is defined by softer, often more androgynous features. Manga fandom in neurodivergent or neurodiverse communities. Manga is expressive. The imagery, visual cues that convey emotions, ideas, or moods in manga are often clear and readable. I've often said that one of the things that really drew me to manga was the fact that I could very clearly tell from the visual language what the characters were thinking and how they were feeling. There was no in between in terms of like I just knew. I could really clearly tell what the emotional expressions were. It was just very concise. Also, hyperfixation or special interest leads to passion, leads to wanting community. So it is very common for neurodivergent people to be very drawn to these fandoms because we are often seeking communities that are all also very drawn. Mouna also has shown her itabag. Itabag is, it's a word that means painful, ita, but it's painful because they're often very heavy. And they're just they're always like these gorgeous representations of fandom. I've tried making them before and my mind is almost too like clear and concise. So I love seeing Mouna's because it's like the really creative, beautiful way of doing it. Like I always make like these really clear, perfect lines of pins, and this is like so gorgeous. I'm sorry, I'm gushing. Anyway, we're skipping these. School club activities.
Ashley, I'm so sorry. Can we move because we've only got 4 minutes left?
Okay. Here are some school club activities. And here are Mouna's recommendations. And here we go.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Let me check and make sure I am unmuted. I am. I don't know why it's not showing me in that little screen, but I will just keep talking and pretend that you all can hear me. If you can't, let me know. So the conversation around manga and marginalized communities underpins everything else we're discussing today. Okay, librarians, y'all, who has noticed that your manga series are popular among varied and intersected marginalized communities? I'm imagining like everyone is nodding their head, right? This is not to say that any community is a monolith. Of course, our students have unique interests and lived experiences and identities within groups. And many of our manga readers are members of one or more marginalized communities: Black, Indigenous, students of color, queer, neurodivergent. It's amazing, and it's why collecting manga in our libraries is an equity issue. I'm going to say that again. Collecting and supporting manga in our libraries is an equity issue. We can go to the next slide. Okay. Again, there is no monolith. When we do this presentation with Mouna, she talks a lot about Black fandoms. I want to touch on Latinx fandoms just really briefly. There are thematic and logistical reasons why manga and anime are so popular amongst Latinx youth. And one of those reasons is logistical. Mexico and Central and South America were the original testing ground for exporting anime. So Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon were localized and dubbed in Mexico before they were ever done in the US. Lots of reasons for this, but the big one is Japanese anime broadcasting license are more cost effective than American ones, for example. So there's a really rich anime culture in Latin American cities today. It is fascinating, I agree. And we'll go to the next one. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm going to go really quick, but it's really important for us in our work to uplift and highlight student voices. And this was one of my students that likened our remote anime club to an affinity group, because everybody in the club, except for me, he would look at all the squares, everyone was Latinx. And he says, it was cool to be together to do something we loved. We didn't have to talk about important issues. We just got to be ourselves, but all together. And he said in his head, it was an infinity group. We can go to the next one. Parts of our chapters are written by student experts. This happens to be written by a student expert that lives in my house. When we talk about marginalized communities and different identities, we want to do it with a lot of care. So I know this term has come out of use because publishers weaponized it, but everyone on this call will understand what I'm talking about. For these parts of the books, it is own voices writing. If someone is writing about trans readership, it's written by a trans co-author. Ashley already touched on this and in Mouna's work, but gender bending and androgyny have long been represented in Japanese culture. So these explorations in manga can be deeply relatable to trans and non-binary people. this softer, kind of less stereotypical masculinity can really resonate with trans and non-binary viewers, as well as like these idealized forms of male and female beauty can really serve as escapism. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. We can go to the next one. This is some more student wisdom. The Venn diagram between our GSA and Anime Club has a lot of the same people. The student went on to say, for most of us, manga and anime just have pan energy. Honestly, I've made most of my friends in the manga section or at Anime Club. It's where the queer people are. I saw a question that came up in the chat. I promise I'm going to answer it. I am leading a queer comics camp this week. 100% of my students at the camp are also neurodivergent. So the intersection between their beautiful marginalized communities is kind of the magic of manga and anime for us as librarians. We can go to the next one. And while it's happening, I'm going to think about this question. Ooh, very interesting. So I'm a big fan. I'm going to answer because this is a great question. How do you advertise manga to trans non-binary students who need it but don't visit the library? I love flooding the whole school space. The school I'm at now even has outside spaces. I put new information about new books everywhere. You can put them in the bathrooms. You can put them where students will see it so they know. And your trans and non-binary students, because of like rich cultural communication, will recognize a lot of the titles that you're going to add to your library, like Boys Run the Riot. Okay, manga and instruction, including clubs. I had asked Casey if it was okay since we were the last one if we went a few minutes over. So I'm just going to keep talking until I get shut off. Manga absolutely is a form of literature, and just like any literature, we can promote it through our not only our libraries, but through our classroom collaborations. Collaborating with English teachers is a way for us to solidify our role as literacy leaders in our school. So here's 4 examples from elementary up to high school. We have basic reading manga with Yotsuba, test prep with Demon Slayer, the hero's journey with My Hero Academia, and then humanity and morality with Full Metal Alchemist. These are just examples. We go in depth with lesson plans in our book. Collaborating with different subjects, especially if, like me, at various schools, your English teachers have been very rigid about what they can teach. Sometimes the best way to get inclusive literature and highly engaging literature is to get it into other subjects like social studies and science. That we have a lot of lessons, environmental science with Studio Ghibli, biology with Cells at Work, history with Okinawa, and art with Blank Canvas, my so-called artist journey. I know I'm flying through these. Ashley talked about clubs a little bit already. Clubs, as you know, are where school librarians shine, right? They tap into our ability to find resources, to connect with students' interests and our skills with building personal relationships. So I feel like manga and clubs is where we can really shine. It will increase inclusivity, engagement, and literacy in your spaces. So examples of club ideas that can span ages, grade levels, and time commitments, creating your own anime awards, character debates, what I call like a hot take on a continuum, and manga and anime journaling. We can go to the next one. These are my 3 recommendations. I'm not allowed to talk about them even though I want to. Here they are. And then I have 2 more of my forever. All 5 of these are queer. I am a big fan of queer representation in manga and anime. As our queer students are being attacked, flooding our libraries with queer-centered literature is such a vital way to support our students. We can go to the next one. Coming this winter is a book from ALA Editions called, guess what? Manga Goes to School. We go to the next one. It's going to pop up with little things that we have. It includes lesson plans, lots of manga recs, like so many. A deep dive into everything from today. We literally were just skimming the surface. It includes art from wonderful co-author Mouna and students, and it's all tied into the ASL standards. Okay, there's the bit.ly. We have our manga rec slides. We have our own information. We have contact and ordering information for the book. All of us love to support students. And the best way we can do that is by supporting librarians so you can support your students. So feel free to reach out to us about anything we talked about. We love connecting with librarians. I did it. I'm sorry, Casey, that we went over. It's 4:34, 4 minutes.
No, I enjoyed every last minute of it. I always learn something new. So thank you so much. And my niece was here, but she's conked out. She just got off the plane from Japan last night. So she was trying to watch this presentation and she went back to sleep. So anyway, all right. So thank you so much. And everybody give them some love in the chat. I mean, there were so many comments, and I hope you're able to go back and look at some of the comments that were made. I can't wait for this book to come out too, you know, and I'm just so proud of everybody that's publishing, all the school librarians that are publishing books. This is just so rich and wonderful. And we're putting our mark out here in the field that, yeah, we can do it. And we're making a huge contribution. So thank you, ladies, for stopping by and just sharing all your wonderful wealth. And please remind me, when is the book being released?
We don't know an exact date, but it's winter 2024, hopefully not 2025. So hopefully like
Okay.
December.
And I don't know, Dorcas, if you can unmute, when is your book being released? I don't know if she can or not. I know that Amanda's book is released in August.
Yep.
And we have a couple of more books that will be released soon. There she is. When is
Fine.
your book released, Dorcas?
Our book came out in the middle of June.
Okay, so that's
You
right.
can
It was
order it now.
available
Wait a
during
minute.
ALA.
I have the
Yeah,
link.
it was at ALA, but they only had 10 copies.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I know I remember somebody was walking around with it. So
Yeah.
thank you guys, man. Stick around.
There's the link to buy it.
Yeah,
In
there
the
you go.
chat.
Put it in there, put it in the chat, because
I did.
we have to support each other. We really do. We have to
That's right.
support each other. So I'm going to stop the recording because unfortunately